This is the gripping story of Olivia Carter, a visionary entrepreneur who turned rejection into revolution, proving that even the most impenetrable walls can crumble under the weight of determination and integrity. Her journey isn't just about success, it's about exposing corruption, challenging bias, and transforming an institution from the inside out. Before we dive into this thrilling tale of resilience and redemption, comment below where you're watching from today. If this story inspires you as much as it inspired us, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more captivating stories like this. The morning sunlight poured through the glass doors of the Prosperity Bank, reflecting off its polished marble floors. The atmosphere buzzed with activity as customers shuffled papers and exchanged polite nods with the tellers behind the counters. Into this scene stepped Olivia Carter, a determined and poised woman with an air of confidence that turned heads. Clad in a tailored blazer, her heels clicked purposefully against the gleaming tiles as she strode across the lobby, carrying a thick folder packed with months of meticulous planning. Olivia had spent countless hours building a proposal for her startup, which focused on providing sustainable and affordable housing solutions for underserved communities. Today was supposed to mark a significant milestone in her journey, securing the loan she needed to expand her operations. Bookmark. At the front desk, a receptionist greeted her with a polite, professional smile. "Good morning. How can I help you?" "Good morning," Olivia replied, her tone calm yet assertive. "I have an appointment with Mr. Hale, the branch manager." The receptionist nodded and made a quick call, then directed Olivia to the manager's office. As Olivia walked across the lobby, she felt the weight of curious stares from employees and clients alike. Being one of the few black women in finance and entrepreneurship had taught her to recognize such glances, lingering a little too long, a mixture of curiosity and subtle judgment. Still, Olivia had learned to let those stares slide off her like water off a raincoat. She focused on her goal, growing her business, proving her critics wrong, and opening doors for others like herself. When she reached the branch manager door, she knocked once and entered. Behind the desk sat Victor Hale, a middle-aged man with thinning hair and a crisp suit. His expression was unreadable as he glanced up, adjusting his glasses. "Miss Carter," he said, offering a perfunctory handshake. "Please, have a seat." Olivia settled into the chair opposite him, placing her folder on the desk between them. "Thank you for meeting with me, Mr. Hale," she began, her voice steady but warm. Victor Hale leaned back slightly in his chair, his demeanor polite but calm. "Of course, let's hear what you've got." Olivia launched into her presentation, her words brimming with passion and clarity. She explained her company's mission to build sustainable housing for low-income families, detailed her successful pilot projects, and shared projections demonstrating a clear path to profitability. The folder contained charts, revenue models, and signed partnerships with reputable developers. Victor skimmed the documents briefly before raising a hand to stop her mid-sentence. "Miss Carter," he said, his tone tinged with condescension, "I'm going to stop you right there." Olivia blinked, surprised but composed. "Is there an issue with the proposal?" Victor shook his head, a faint smirk curling his lips. "It's not the proposal itself," he said. "It's the kind of venture you're proposing. It doesn't align with the bank's lending criteria. These kinds of projects, well, they tend to be high risk." Olivia's heart sank, but she maintained her composure. "High risk?" she repeated. "Mr. Hale, the numbers are solid. My track record speaks for itself. I've already secured partnerships and generated revenue. How exactly is this high risk?" Victor leaned forward, clasping his hands on the desk. "It's not just about the numbers," he said vaguely. "We must consider the overall fit with our portfolio and ensure we lend to clients who meet certain expectations." Bookmark. His words hung in the air, their implications unmistakable. Olivia felt a familiar sting of frustration. She had encountered this kind of polite dismissal before, cloaked in vague reasoning to obscure prejudice or bias. For a moment, she considered challenging him further. She wanted to demand clarity, to force him to articulate what made her or her project an unsuitable fit. But Olivia knew better than to waste her energy on someone who had already made up his mind. Instead, she rose from her seat, her expression calm but resolute. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Hale," she said evenly, gathering her folder. Victor offered a thin smile and a curt nod. "Good luck, Miss Carter," he said, turning back to his computer as if she were an afterthought. Olivia walked out of the office, her head held high. Though her heels clicked steadily across the lobby, her mind raced with thoughts of rejection and resolve. When she stepped outside into the crisp morning air, she dialed a number on her phone. On the other end of the line, a confident voice answered. "Olivia, didn't expect to hear from you so soon." "I'm ready," she said firmly, her voice betraying none of the frustration she had just endured. "Hale turned me down exactly as we expected. Let's move forward with the acquisition." There was a brief pause before the voice replied with a chuckle. "Understood. I'll make the arrangements. Are you sure you don't want to give him a heads up?" Olivia allowed herself a small knowing smile. "No," she said. "He doesn't deserve one. Let's make it official." As she ended the call, Olivia looked back at the bank's imposing facade. This was no longer about securing a loan. It was about standing up to those who underestimated her. With that thought, she turned and walked away, the seed of a bold plan already taking root in her mind. Olivia's heels echoed sharply against the marble floor as she re-entered Prosperity Bank later that day. This time, her demeanor carried an unmistakable edge of authority. She didn't pause to glance at the receptionist, whose earlier indifference had been replaced with a flicker of confusion. The woman stammered. "Miss Carter, do you have an appointment?" "No need," Olivia replied calmly yet firmly. Her tone brooked no argument as she walked straight toward the office of Jonathan Reed, the regional director. The regional director's office was a quiet, glass-paneled corner overlooking the bustling lobby below. Olivia knocked once and entered without waiting for an invitation. Inside, Jonathan Reed, a man in his late 40s with salt and pepper hair and a sharp, tailored suit, looked up from his desk. "Look, Miss Carter," he greeted, rising to his feet. "To what do I owe the pleasure?" Jonathan's voice was courteous, but his curiosity was evident. Few people bypassed formalities and strode directly into his office. Olivia placed her folder on his desk, meeting his gaze with unwavering confidence. "I believe you've been briefed on the ongoing negotiations with your parent company," she said. Jonathan furrowed his brow as he flipped through the folder's contents. Recognition dawned on his face after a moment. "Ah, the acquisition proposal," he said, his tone shifting to guarded respect. "I hadn't realized this was your initiative." Olivia gave a faint smile. "It is," she confirmed, "and as of this morning, the terms have been finalized. Effective immediately, I am the majority shareholder in Prosperity Bank." Jonathan blinked, momentarily stunned. He had expected to deal with a faceless corporate investor, not the poised woman standing before him. He recovered quickly, smoothing his expression. "Well," he said, extending his hand, "congratulations, Miss Carter. That's certainly unexpected." "Thank you," Olivia replied, shaking his hand firmly but not sitting down. She had no intention of relinquishing the upper hand. "There's one immediate matter I'd like to address." Jonathan's gaze sharpened slightly, his curiosity deepening. "Of course," he said. "What is it?" "Your branch manager, Victor Hale," Olivia said, her voice steady but laced with purpose. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. "What about him?" "I just met with him earlier today regarding a business loan," Olivia began. "He dismissed my proposal outright, not because it lacked merit, but because he decided I wasn't worth his time. That attitude has no place in a bank I now control." Jonathan leaned back slightly, processing her words carefully. He could sense that Olivia wasn't just making a complaint, she was issuing a directive. "I see," he said cautiously. "I'll look into the matter immediately." "I expect his resignation on my desk by the end of the day," Olivia said firmly. "I trust that won't be a problem." Jonathan nodded, a flicker of respect flashing across his face. "Consider it handled," he said. "Good," Olivia replied, extending her hand once more. "I look forward to working with you, Mr. Reed." As Jonathan shook her hand, his grip was firm, but his demeanor was deferential. Olivia left the office with the same confidence she had entered, her heels clicking with purpose. The air in the bank felt different as she walked through the lobby. Employees exchanged glances, sensing a shift in the power dynamics, but not understanding its full extent. From her vantage point, Olivia spotted Victor through the glass walls of his office. He was seated at his desk, casually flipping through paperwork, unaware of the storm heading his way. She paused in the center of the lobby, her presence commanding attention. A junior banker, observing her earlier, hesitated before stepping forward nervously. "Excuse me, Miss Carter," he said. "Can I help you with something?" Olivia gave him a measured smile. "Not at the moment, thank you," she said politely, though her tone carried an edge that puzzled the young man. Without breaking stride, Olivia approached the front desk. The receptionist, still visibly unsettled, froze when Olivia addressed her. "Would you be so kind as to let Mr. Hale know I'll return to his office shortly?" Olivia said. The receptionist nodded quickly, fumbling with the phone. Olivia didn't wait for a response. She stepped away, her mind already focused on the conversation she was about to have. In a quieter corner of the lobby, she dialed her investor contact. The voice on the other end answered promptly. "The regional director is on board," Olivia said smoothly. "Hale will be dealt with shortly. Let's proceed with the employee announcement as planned." "Understood," the voice replied. "And the media package? Ready by the end of the week," Olivia said. "I want every client and stakeholder to know exactly what we stand for and did what we won't tolerate." Ending the call, Olivia allowed herself a brief moment of reflection. Everything was unfolding as planned, but this wasn't just about executing a business strategy. It was about sending a clear message to everyone who had underestimated her. When the receptionist returned, her voice trembled slightly. "Mr. Hale will see you now," she said. Olivia nodded in acknowledgement, thanking her with a calm, confident smile. She walked back toward Victor Hale's office, her posture unshakable. This time, she didn't bother knocking. She opened the door and stepped inside, catching Victor mid-sentence as he looked up in surprise. "Miss Carter," he said, his tone laced with thinly veiled annoyance. "Back so soon? I thought our discussion was finished." Olivia closed the door behind her, her expression calm but resolute. She placed her bag on the chair she had sat in earlier, then looked Victor directly in the eye. "It seems there's been a change in circumstances," she said. "One that directly affects you." Victor frowned, leaning forward in his chair. "What are you talking about?" he asked. Olivia didn't blink. "As of this morning," she said, "I am the new majority shareholder in Prosperity Bank. That means I am now your employer." Victor Hale's face froze, his usual smug composure cracking under the weight of Olivia's words. For a moment, he seemed at a complete loss. The color drained from his cheeks, and his lips parted as though to speak, but no words came out. "That's impossible," he finally stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's not," Olivia replied, her tone sharp and unwavering. She allowed the silence to settle, letting her authority fill the space. "You'll find out soon enough, Mr. Hale. But for now, you'll need to prepare your resignation. I've already discussed this with the regional director, and I expect your cooperation to make this transition as smooth as possible." Victor sat back in his chair, his eyes narrowing in a futile attempt to regain control of the situation. "You can't just—" "Let me stop you right there," Olivia interrupted, calm but commanding. "What you can't do is continue operating under the illusion that this bank runs on your terms. That ends today." Victor's jaw tightened, and for a moment, Olivia thought he might lash out. But instead, he remained silent, his eyes fixed on the desk before him. The once smug manager now seemed small, his confidence crumbling under Olivia's unyielding presence. Gathering her bag, Olivia turned toward the door. She paused briefly and glanced over her shoulder. "You underestimated the wrong person, Mr. Hale. That's a mistake you won't make again." With that, she exited the office, leaving Victor stunned silence. As Olivia walked back into the lobby, the subtle shift in the bank's atmosphere became palpable. Conversations fell to hushed murmurs, and employees exchanged nervous glances. The receptionist avoided Olivia's gaze entirely, her earlier bravado replaced by visible unease. Moments later, Jonathan Reed appeared from the elevator, striding toward Olivia with a purposeful gait. "Miss Carter," he said, his voice carrying across the room. "I've gathered the staff, as you requested. They're waiting in the conference room." "Thank you, Mr. Reed," Olivia replied with a nod. "Let's not keep them waiting." She followed Jonathan down a short hallway to the bank's largest conference room. Inside, about 24 employees sat around a polished table, their expressions ranging from confusion to outright anxiety. Among them, Olivia noticed a young junior banker who had hesitated to approach her earlier. He now sat stiffly, his hands folded tightly in front of him. Conspicuously absent from the gathering was Victor Hale. Olivia entered the room and positioned herself at the head of the table, standing tall as her presence commanded immediate attention. Jonathan remained by the door, his expression watchful as Olivia began to speak. "Good afternoon," Olivia said, her voice steady but authoritative. "I'm Olivia Carter, and as of this morning, I am the new majority shareholder of Prosperity Bank." A ripple of murmurs moved through the room, employees exchanging startled glances. Olivia allowed the moment to linger before continuing. "I understand that this news comes as a surprise," she said, her tone softening slightly. "But I want to assure you that my primary focus is the growth and success of this institution. However, success starts with accountability, which applies to every level." Her gaze swept across the room, lingering briefly on the faces of those who seemed the most uneasy. "I'll be closely reviewing this branch's practices and policies," Olivia continued. "Changes will be necessary to ensure fairness, professionalism, and respect are always upheld. This bank must become a place where every client and employee is treated with the dignity they deserve." Before anyone could respond, the door to the conference room opened and Victor Hale stepped in. His face was flushed, and a strained attempt at composure had replaced his usual air of arrogance. "Mr. Hale," Olivia said, addressing him without hesitation, "we were just discussing the changes underway, and your role in this organization has been reevaluated." Victor froze in the doorway, his jaw tightening visibly. "I see," he managed to say, his voice barely masking his frustration. Olivia gestured toward an empty chair at the far end of the table. "Please, take a seat," she said. "There's much to discuss, and I wouldn't want you to miss the opportunity to reflect on today's events." The tension in the room was palpable as Victor hesitated. Every pair of eyes in the room was on him, and it was clear to everyone present that the balance of power had shifted entirely. Reluctantly, Victor moved to the chair and sat down, his movements slow and deliberate. Olivia resumed speaking, her tone calm but firm. "This isn't just about a single loan or decision. It's about ensuring that this bank operates with integrity and fairness." She allowed her words to settle before continuing, her eyes sweeping the room again. "Together we have the opportunity to build something better," Olivia said, her voice steady but persistent. "And it starts today." For a moment, the room was silent. Employees sat a little straighter in their chairs, fully aware they were witnessing the beginning of a new chapter. Victor shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his gaze fixed downward. Olivia turned her attention back to him, her expression unyielding. "Leadership sets the tone for an organization, Mr. Hale," Olivia said, calm but pointed. "Unfortunately, your tone does not align with the vision or values I intend to bring to this bank." Victor opened his mouth to respond, but Olivia raised a hand to silence him. "This isn't a decision I've made lightly," she continued, "but it is a necessary one. Your resignation is effective immediately." The air in the room grew heavier, and employees exchanged wide-eyed glances. Victor's face paled, and his lips moved soundlessly for a moment before he finally stammered. "This is highly irregular." "What's highly irregular, Mr. Hale?" Olivia interrupted, her tone razor-sharp, "is dismissing clients without giving their proposals due consideration. What's highly irregular is fostering an environment where bias outweighs merit. This ends now." Victor stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You can't. Please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be," Olivia said, her voice calm but unyielding. "Your severance package will reflect your years with the bank, but your time here has come to an end." Victor glared at her, his expression a mixture of anger and humiliation, before turning sharply on his heel and storming out of the room. As the door slammed shut behind him, Olivia turned back to the employees. "This is a turning point for our branch," she said, "and I believe we can come out of this stronger together." As Victor Hale stormed out of the conference room, the tension in the air lingered like an unspoken question. The employees sat in stunned silence, processing what they had just witnessed. Olivia Carter remained standing at the head of the table, her posture steady and unyielding. "This wasn't just about removing one individual," Olivia began, her voice calm yet firm. "It was about setting a new standard that prioritizes accountability and integrity. That is how we move forward together." Her gaze swept across the room, meeting the eyes of several employees. Some nodded cautiously, while others appeared unsure. One junior banker shifted uncomfortably, his nervousness apparent. Olivia noted these reactions, but didn't let them deter her. "I understand that change can be unsettling," she continued, "but I want you all to know that my door is always open. If you have questions, concerns, or ideas, I encourage you to bring them to me directly." A hand slowly rose at the back of the room. It was Michael, the junior banker Olivia had noticed earlier. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke. "Miss Carter," he said, "does this mean we're changing how we evaluate clients?" Olivia's lips curved into a small, encouraging smile. "Yes, Michael," she replied. "From this moment forward, we'll focus on merit, potential, and opportunity. No more rigid formulas or preconceived biases. Every client will be given a fair shot." Michael nodded, his expression softening with relief. Around the room, murmurs of cautious optimism began to ripple through the group. Olivia allowed the moment to settle before concluding the meeting. "Thank you for your time," she said. "This is just the beginning, and I'm counting on all of you to help us make this bank a place we can all be proud of." The employees began to file out of the room, their faces reflecting emotions, curiosity, uncertainty, and a glimmer of hope. Jonathan Reed lingered near the door, watching the staff with a thoughtful expression. "You've made an impression," he said quietly as the last employee exited. "That's the easy part," Olivia replied, her tone measured. "Now comes the real work, earning their trust." Jonathan nodded. "If anyone can do it, it's you." Olivia offered a faint smile but didn't respond. Her mind was already turning toward the next steps. Later that afternoon, Olivia sat in her new office, the spacious corner room that had once belonged to Victor Hale. It was a reflection of his self-importance, filled with heavy oak furniture and overpriced decor. She couldn't help but feel a sharp contrast between the man who had occupied the space and the values she intended to bring to the bank. Sifting through the reports Jonathan had provided, Olivia began identifying patterns that troubled her. Loan rejections disproportionately affected minority applicants, while certain corporate ventures received approvals despite their high-risk nature. Clearly, the problems ran deeper than Victor's individual decisions. They were systemic. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. "Come in," she called, glancing up. Michael stepped in hesitantly, holding a folder. "Miss Carter, do you have a moment?" he asked. "Of course," Olivia replied, gesturing for him to sit. "And please, call me Olivia. What's on your mind?" Michael sat down, clutching the folder tightly. "I've been thinking about what you said earlier about fairness and opportunity. I wanted to share an idea I've been working on." "Curious." Olivia nodded for him to continue. "It's a financial literacy program," Michael explained, his voice growing more confident as he spoke. "We could partner with local schools to teach high school students about budgeting, credit, and saving. A lot of kids in underserved areas don't get this kind of education, and it sets them up for failure later." Olivia leaned forward, intrigued. "How do you see this aligning with the bank's mission?" she asked. Michael hesitated, then continued. "We could offer scholarships tied to the program," he said. "Maybe even internships for students who show potential. It would be a way to invest in the community while also building relationships with future clients." Olivia considered his words, her mind already envisioning the possibilities. "I like it," she said. "Let's work on a proposal and figure out how we can make this happen." Michael beamed, his confidence growing under Olivia's encouragement. "Thank you," he said. "I'll get started right away." As Michael left the office, Olivia felt a renewed sense of purpose. Despite the challenges she had faced, moments like this reminded her why she had taken on this fight. That evening, Olivia received an anonymous note slipped under her office door. The scrawled handwriting was hurried, the message chilling in its simplicity. "Stick to loans and leave the rest alone. Don't ruin what works." Olivia stared at the note, her jaw tightening. Someone in the bank didn't just disagree with her. They felt threatened enough to send a warning. She tucked the note into a drawer and leaned back in her chair, staring out at the cityscape beyond her office window. Resistance was expected, but this felt more personal, more deliberate. Picking up her phone, she dialed Jonathan. "We need a full audit of departmental operations," she said, her voice firm. "Focus on expense reports, client records, and internal communications. I want to know exactly where every penny and every policy stands." Jonathan's pause on the other end of the line was brief but telling. Do you suspect something specific? He asked. I don't suspect, Olivia replied. I know something doesn't add up. Let's find it. As she hung up, Olivia returned her gaze to the city lights. Change wasn't easy. It revealed cracks in foundations, forced hidden agendas into the light, and made people uncomfortable. But cracks could be repaired, and weak structures could be rebuilt. Olivia took a deep breath, her determination solidifying. Whoever had sent that note didn't understand the kind of leader they were dealing with. This wasn't just a battle for a bank. It was a battle for what the bank could become, and Olivia wasn't about to back down. The next morning, Jonathan Reed arrived at Olivia's office carrying a thick folder. His expression was grim but focused as he placed it on her desk. I thought you'd want to see this in person, he said, gesturing to the folder. Olivia opened it and began flipping through the documents. What she saw made her jaw tighten. The audit had uncovered a trail of troubling evidence. Falsified loan applications, shell companies with no legitimate operations, and funds diverted into personal accounts. It's worse than I thought, Jonathan said, breaking the silence. Victor Hale wasn't just dismissive and biased, he was actively embezzling funds. Olivia's eyes scanned the pages, her mind racing. How long has this been going on? At least 3 years, based on what we've found so far, Jonathan replied. But it's possible it started even earlier. He kept the amounts small enough to avoid immediate scrutiny, but it adds up to a significant figure. Olivia closed the folder and sat back, letting out a measured breath. This isn't just a personnel issue anymore, she said. This is criminal. If this becomes public without a clear plan to address it, the fallout could be catastrophic. Jonathan nodded in agreement. The legal team is already building a case, but there's another concern, he said. Victor wasn't working alone. A few mid-level managers were complicit in approving these fraudulent loans. They were getting kickbacks. Olivia's expression hardened. Do we have names? Not yet, Jonathan admitted, but the auditors are following the trail. It's only a matter of time before we identify everyone involved. Olivia leaned forward, her hands resting on her desk. Here's what we're going to do. First, freeze any accounts tied to these shell companies. Second, prepare a detailed report for legal, every document, every name, and every transaction. Third, I want a communication plan ready. Transparency is non-negotiable. Our employees and clients need to hear the truth from us, not from rumors or the press. Jonathan jotted down her directives. Understood, he said. Olivia's gaze sharpened. And when we have the names of those complicit managers, I'll handle it personally. Later that afternoon, Olivia's phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from Jonathan, flagged as urgent. The subject line read, Additional Evidence Against Hale. Opening the email, Olivia found a summary of complaints that had been lodged against Victor over the years. Many accused him of discriminatory behavior, both toward employees and clients. These complaints had either been ignored or quietly dismissed by previous leadership. A knock at her door pulled her from the email. Come in, she called. Jonathan entered, carrying another folder. I thought this needed to be delivered in person, he said, setting it on her desk. Olivia opened the folder, finding even more damning evidence, emails, meeting notes, and internal memos that painted a clear picture of Victor's misconduct. How did this go unchecked for so long? Olivia asked, her voice calm but edged with frustration. Jonathan sighed. Victor was untouchable for a while. He had connections higher up, and no one wanted to rock the boat. Complaints were buried, and anyone who raised concerns felt powerless to push back. Olivia closed the folder with a sharp snap. That ends now, she said firmly. Draft a formal statement acknowledging these failures. We need to own this and outline the corrective actions we're taking. This isn't just about Victor, it's about the culture that allowed him to operate unchecked. Jonathan nodded, his expression resolute. I'll get started right away. For what it's worth, I think people are already starting to feel the shift. The staff meetings, the changes you've proposed, they're making a difference. Good, Olivia said, though her focus was already shifting. But we need to go further. I want to launch a community initiative, a program that provides resources to underrepresented entrepreneurs, workshops, mentorship programs, networking events, the works. If we're going to rebuild trust, we need to reconnect with the people we're here to serve. Jonathan's eyebrows lifted slightly, a spark of approval in his eyes. "That's ambitious," he said. "But if anyone can pull it off, it's you." The following morning, Olivia called an emergency all-staff meeting. Employees filed into the conference room with murmurs of concern, their unease palpable. When the room quieted, Olivia stood at the head of the table, her expression calm but resolute. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," she began. "I believe in transparency, and I owe it to each of you to be honest about what we've uncovered." She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle. "Over the past few weeks, we've identified significant misconduct within this branch. Fraudulent loans, misappropriation of funds, and unethical practices have gone unchecked for years. This behavior is unacceptable, and I want to clarify that it will not be tolerated." The room fell silent, tension thick in the air. Employees exchanged uneasy glances, some visibly stiffening in their seats. "I know this is difficult to hear," Olivia continued, her voice steady. "But this is not a reflection of who we are or who we're going to be moving forward. We are taking immediate action to address these issues, including a full audit and a comprehensive review of all policies and procedures." Michael raised his hand. "Miss Carter," he said, his voice steady but concerned. "What does this mean for us? Are our jobs at risk because of this?" Olivia softened her tone slightly, meeting Michael's gaze. "No," she said firmly. "This is not about punishing the staff. This is about correcting past mistakes and ensuring we have a foundation of integrity and accountability. If anything, this is an opportunity for all of us to step up and be part of the solution." The tension in the room eased slightly. While the weight of the revelations still lingered, there was a sense of cautious optimism in the air. "I want to thank each of you for your dedication," Olivia said, her tone warm but purposeful. "This is a turning point for our branch, and I believe we can come out of this strong together." As the meeting ended, employees began to file out of the room, their expressions ranging from thoughtful to determined. Jonathan approached Olivia as the last person left. "You handled that well," he said. "Better than I expected." "Thanks," Olivia replied. "But the hard part is just beginning. Now we have to deliver on everything I promised." The day after the staff meeting, Olivia's office hummed with activity. Reports piled up on her desk, detailing the results of the ongoing audit. As she reviewed each file, a clear pattern began to emerge. Not only had Victor Hale manipulated loan approvals, but his network of mid-level managers had actively enabled his schemes. By mid-morning, Jonathan Reed knocked on her door and entered, his face a mix of urgency and determination. He carried yet another folder, this one thinner but no less significant. "We have names," Jonathan said, placing the folder on her desk. Olivia opened it and scanned the contents. 3 mid-level managers had been identified as key accomplices in Victor's corruption. Each had approved fraudulent loans, diverting funds into shell companies in exchange for kickbacks. "How solid is the evidence?" Olivia asked, her tone sharp. "Rock solid," Jonathan replied. "Legal has verified the documentation, and we've frozen the accounts tied to their activities. The case is airtight." Olivia closed the folder and leaned back in her chair, her mind racing. "Schedule individual meetings with each of them for tomorrow morning," she said. "I'll handle it personally." Jonathan hesitated. "Are you sure you want to do this yourself? It might get ugly." "I'm sure," Olivia replied firmly. "This isn't just about firing a few people. It's about sending a clear message to everyone else in this organization." The next day, the meetings unfolded exactly as Olivia had anticipated. The first manager, Patricia Lane, tried to plead ignorance, claiming she had no idea the loans were fraudulent. "I was just following Victor's instructions," Patricia said, her voice trembling. "Following instructions doesn't absolve you of responsibility," Olivia replied, her tone measured but firm. "You approved those loans knowing the risks. That choice has consequences." The second manager, Daniel Knox, took a more defiant approach. "This is a witch hunt," he said angrily. "You're targeting people loyal to Victor because you don't like the way he ran things." Olivia's expression didn't waver. "This isn't about loyalty, Mr. Knox. It's about accountability. Your actions harmed this bank, its clients, and the communities we serve. That's unacceptable." The final manager, Laura Whitman, resorted to desperation, begging Olivia to reconsider. "I have a family," Laura said, tears welling in her eyes. "I can't lose my job over this. Olivia's voice softened slightly, but her resolve remained intact. I understand the impact this will have on you, and I don't make this decision lightly. But this bank cannot move forward without addressing the harm that's been done. Your resignation is effective immediately. Each meeting ended with security escorting the managers out of the building. Word spread quickly among the employees, fueling a mix of shock, relief, and respect. For the first time, the staff saw that Olivia wasn't just paying lip service to change. She was taking decisive action to restore the bank's integrity. That afternoon, Olivia gathered her leadership team in the conference room. The group included Jonathan, Michael, and several department heads who had shown a willingness to embrace her vision. Today was difficult, Olivia began, her voice steady. But it was necessary. The actions we've taken are just the start of rebuilding this bank into an institution we can all be proud of. Jonathan nodded. The staff is starting to come around, he said. They're beginning to see that you mean what you say. Good, Olivia replied. But we can't stop here. We need to address the root causes of these issues, not just the symptoms. That means overhauling our policies, redefining our values, and setting clear expectations for everyone moving forward. Michael raised his hand, his confidence growing with each meeting. What about the financial literacy program? He asked. I think it could be a great way to show the community that we're serious about change. I agree, Olivia said. Let's finalize the curriculum and schedule a meeting with the local school district. I want this program up and running within 2 weeks. Michael's face lit up with enthusiasm as he jotted down notes. Jonathan leaned forward. We also need to address the lingering unease among the staff, he said. Some people are still loyal to Victor, and they're not happy about the direction you're taking. Olivia nodded thoughtfully. I've anticipated resistance, she said. But this isn't about making everyone comfortable. It's about doing what's right. If there are people who can't align with the new vision, they'll have to make a choice. That evening, as Olivia worked late in her office, her phone buzzed with an email notification. The subject line read, You're digging too deep. The message was short and direct. This is bigger than you think. Stop before it's too late. Olivia's stomach tightened as she read the words. This wasn't just resistance, it was a warning. Someone inside the bank was feeling threatened enough to send her a veiled threat. She forwarded the email to Jonathan with a simple note. Add this to the investigation. Taking a deep breath, Olivia leaned back in her chair and stared out the window. The stakes were higher than ever, but she refused to be intimidated. If anything, the warning only strengthened her resolve. This isn't just about cleaning up corruption, she murmured to herself. It's about creating something better for everyone. The next morning, Olivia called Michael into her office to discuss the financial literacy program. He arrived with a stack of papers, his excitement barely contained. I've finalized the curriculum, Michael said, spreading the papers on her desk. We're covering budgeting, credit, saving, and even some basics about starting a business. I think it's really going to resonate with students. Olivia flipped through the materials, impressed by the thoroughness and thoughtfulness of the content. This is excellent work, Michael, she said. Let's move forward with scheduling the workshops. I want this to be a cornerstone of our community outreach efforts. Michael beamed with pride. Thank you, Olivia. I'll get started on the logistics right away. As Michael left the office, Olivia felt a sense of momentum building. Despite the resistance and challenges, progress was being made. The financial literacy program represented a tangible step toward rebuilding trust with the community, a small but significant victory in the larger battle she was fighting. But as she turned back to her desk, the anonymous email lingered in her mind. Whoever was behind it clearly didn't understand who they were dealing with. Olivia Carter wasn't going to back down. The following week, the tension within Prosperity Bank reached a boiling point. Olivia Carter's decisive actions had begun to transform the institution, but the resistance she faced was becoming harder to ignore. It started with whispered conversations in the break room, escalated to pointed stares in the hallway, and culminated in an incident that confirmed Olivia's suspicions. Michael, the junior banker, knocked on her office door one afternoon, his expression a mix of concern and hesitation. Olivia, he began, closing the door behind him. I need to tell you something. Bookmark. Go back. Go ahead, Olivia said, setting aside the report she'd been reviewing. Michael shifted uncomfortably. I overheard some employees talking in the break room earlier. They were complaining about the changes you're making. One of them said that Victor always looked out for his people. They seemed angry. Like they think you're ruining something that worked for them. Olivia's eyes narrowed slightly. Did they say anything specific? Mention any names? Michael shook his head. No names, but it was clear they were not happy. And honestly, I think it's more than just loyalty to Victor. It feels like they're hiding something. Olivia leaned back in her chair, her expression thoughtful. Thank you for bringing this to me, Michael, she said. For what it's worth, Michael added, his voice firming, most of us believe in what you're doing. Don't let a few bad apples stop you. Olivia smiled faintly. I won't, she assured him. Later that evening, Olivia returned to her office after the building had emptied. The quiet provided her a chance to reflect on the resistance she was facing. She unlocked her desk drawer and retrieved the anonymous note and the cryptic email she had received earlier. Stick to loans and leave the rest alone. Don't ruin what works. This is bigger than you think. Stop before it's too late. The messages carried a tone of desperation, even menace. Whoever was behind them clearly felt threatened by the changes Olivia was implementing. She picked up her phone and called Jonathan Reed. I need an update on the audit, she said when he answered. Have the auditors found anything new? Not yet, Jonathan replied. But they're still working through the paper trail. It's a lot to untangle. Olivia's grip on the phone tightened. I want every corner of this bank scrutinized. Expense reports, communications, and client records leave no stone unturned. Whoever sent these messages is trying to protect something, and I need to know what it is. I'll double the auditor's resources, Jonathan said. We'll get to the bottom of it. After ending the call, Olivia stared out her office window, her mind racing. Her resistance wasn't just about loyalty to Victor, but about fear. Fear of being exposed, fear of losing power, and fear of accountability. But Olivia had never been one to back down from fear. The next morning, Jonathan arrived at Olivia's office carrying yet another thick folder. His expression was grim as he set it on her desk. I think we found the connection you've been looking for, he said. Olivia opened the folder and scanned the documents inside. They revealed a pattern of collusion among Victor Hale's inner circle. Certain employees had approved fraudulent loans and diverted funds into accounts tied to shell companies. These employees had also manipulated internal policies to shield their actions from scrutiny. The names matched those Michael had hinted at, the disgruntled employees who had spoken in the break room. This wasn't just mismanagement, Olivia said, her voice cold with anger. This was a coordinated effort to exploit the system. Jonathan nodded. And it wasn't just Victor. These people had been working together for years. The auditors suspect there are even more involved, but this is enough to act on for now. Olivia closed the folder, her jaw tightening. Schedule a meeting with these individuals, she said. I want to confront them personally. The meetings that followed were some of the most challenging moments of Olivia's leadership. Each of the implicated employees reacted differently, in denial, anger, and defiance, but the evidence against them was undeniable. You're making a mistake, one manager, Alan Bryce, said, his voice filled with bitterness. We were just doing what we were told. Victor set the rules, and we followed them. Following orders doesn't absolve you of accountability, Olivia replied, her tone unwavering. You had a choice. You chose to participate in fraud that hurt this bank and the people it serves. Another employee, Marissa Stone, tried a different tactic. This is all political, she said, her voice dripping with disdain. You're targeting anyone who doesn't align with your vision. This isn't politics, Olivia said firmly. This is about integrity. If you can't see the difference, you have no place in this organization. Each implicated employee was escorted from the building by the day's end. Word of their dismissal spread quickly among the staff, sparking mixed reactions. Some employees were relieved, while others remained uneasy. But Olivia knew she had taken a critical step toward restoring the bank's integrity. That evening, Olivia met with Jonathan and Michael in her office to discuss the next phase of their plans. We've addressed the immediate threats, Olivia said, but now we need to focus on rebuilding trust internally and with the community. Michael leaned forward, his enthusiasm evident. The financial literacy program is ready to launch, he said. The local school district is on board, and we've scheduled the first workshops for next week. Excellent, Olivia said. I want this program to set the tone for how we engage with the community moving forward. Jonathan nodded. What about the media? He asked. We've been keeping things under wraps, but this could be a good opportunity to get ahead of the narrative. Olivia considered his words carefully. You're right, she said. Schedule a press conference for next week. We'll announce the program and address the steps we're taking to ensure accountability within the bank. It's time to show people what we stand for. As the meeting ended, Olivia felt a renewed sense of purpose. The challenges she faced were daunting, but she knew she was progressing. The financial literacy program and the press conference represented a chance to reshape the bank's image and prove that change was possible. But she also knew that not everyone would welcome that change. The anonymous messages, the whispered resistance, and the uncovered corruption all pointed to more profound challenges ahead. Olivia took a deep breath, steeling herself for the upcoming battles. She hadn't come this far to falter now. The following week, we marked the launch of the financial literacy program. The bank's largest conference room was transformed into a welcoming space filled with young entrepreneurs, high school students, and community leaders. Posters adorned the walls, highlighting the themes of budgeting, saving, and entrepreneurship. Olivia Carter stood at the podium, her gaze sweeping across the audience. For weeks, she envisioned this moment as a tangible step toward rebuilding the bank's connection with the community. Good evening, Olivia began, her voice steady but warm. This program represents more than education. It represents a commitment, a promise to support the people who make this community thrive. The audience responded with applause, their enthusiasm palpable. Olivia introduced Michael, who stepped forward to lead the first workshop. His confidence had grown immensely over the past few weeks, and it showed as he engaged the crowd with practical advice and relatable anecdotes. Bookmark. As Olivia watched from the sidelines, she felt a flicker of pride. This program wasn't just about financial literacy, but about restoring faith in what a bank could be. The next day, Olivia's focus shifted to preparing for the press conference. She reviewed the talking points with Jonathan and finalized the details of the statement she would deliver. The press will have questions, Jonathan warned, especially about the terminations and the audit findings. Are you ready for that? Transparency is key, Olivia replied. We'll address the issues directly and outline our steps to ensure accountability. The public deserves to know the truth. Jonathan nodded, his respect for Olivia evident. The press conference was held in the bank's main lobby, which had been cleared to accommodate reporters and cameras. A banner hung behind the podium bearing the words integrity, growth, community. As Olivia approached the podium, the flash of cameras greeted her. The reporters fell silent, their anticipation heavy in the air. Thank you for joining us today, Olivia began, her tone composed yet purposeful. When I became the majority shareholder of Prosperity Bank, I envisioned a place that not only served its clients but uplifted its community. Unfortunately, I discovered that the institution had strayed far from those ideals. She paused, allowing her words to resonate. Over the past several weeks, we've uncovered misconduct that has harmed clients and employees. Fraudulent loans, embezzlement, and unethical practices went unchecked for years. This is unacceptable, and I want to clarify that these actions do not reflect the values of this bank under its new leadership. The reporters scribbled furiously in their notebooks, their eyes fixed on Olivia. We have taken decisive action, she continued. Individuals responsible for these practices have been terminated, and we are cooperating with legal authorities to hold them accountable. Additionally, we are implementing new safeguards to ensure transparency, fairness, and accountability moving forward. A hand shot up in the audience. Miss Carter, a reporter called, "Can you confirm whether other bank branches were involved in these activities?" Olivia nodded. An external audit of all branches is underway, she said. While the misconduct we've uncovered appears limited to this location, we are leaving no stone unturned. Another reporter spoke up. What about the community programs you've announced? Are they enough to restore trust? Olivia's expression softened slightly. Trust isn't something I can ask for, she said. It's something I have to earn. That's why we've launched initiatives like the Financial Literacy Program to demonstrate our commitment through action. This is just the beginning. The conference ended with a round of applause from community members invited to attend. As Olivia stepped away from the podium, she felt the moment's weight settle over her. The questions had been tough, but she had faced them head-on, and the crowd's response gave her hope. That evening, Olivia returned to her office, ready to review the day's events. As she sat down, her phone buzzed with a message from Jonathan. "Call me ASAP. Auditors found something new." Her stomach tightened as she dialed his number. Jonathan answered on the first ring. "The auditors finished reviewing communications from Victor's tenure," he said. They uncovered emails between him and a regional executive. Olivia's breath caught. A regional executive? Someone higher up was involved? "It looks that way," Jonathan confirmed. "The emails suggest they knew about the fraudulent loans and turned a blind eye." "It's damning, Olivia." Her mind raced. If someone in the bank's upper echelons had been complicit, the scope of the corruption was far greater than she had anticipated. "What's the next step?" Olivia asked. "We need to escalate this to the board," Jonathan said. "They need to be aware of what's happening before this becomes public knowledge." Olivia nodded, her resolve hardening. "Schedule a meeting with the board, and send me copies of the emails. I want to review everything myself." The board meeting was scheduled for the following morning. Olivia entered the room carrying a stack of documents, her expression a mix of determination and gravity. The board members, a group of seasoned professionals, sat around the long table. They exchanged uneasy glances as Olivia took her seat at the head. "Thank you for convening on short notice," Olivia began. "What I'm about to share is deeply concerning, but we must address it immediately." She distributed copies of the emails, watching the board members read them in stunned silence. "This evidence implicates a regional executive in the fraudulent activities we've uncovered," Olivia said. "They knew about the misconduct and allowed it to continue. This is not just a branch-level issue, it's a systemic failure." One board member cleared his throat. "Ms. Carter, this is troubling. But what do you propose we do?" "We need to act swiftly and decisively," Olivia replied. "First, the executive in question must be suspended immediately, pending a full investigation. Second, we must issue a public statement acknowledging these findings and outlining our corrective actions." The room erupted into murmurs of concern. Another board member spoke up. "Won't this damage the bank's reputation even further?" "The damage is already done," Olivia said firmly. "Our reputation isn't defined by the mistakes we've made, it's defined by how we address them. Transparency is our only path forward." After a tense discussion, the board agreed to Olivia's proposals. As the meeting adjourned, several members approached her, offering support. "You're handling this better than most would," one said. "Thank you," Olivia replied. "But this is just the beginning." That night, Olivia returned home, feeling the weight of the day's revelations. She knew the battle ahead would be even more challenging, but determined to see it through. The corruption she had uncovered wasn't just a threat to the bank, but a betrayal of the trust clients and employees had placed in the institution. But Olivia was committed to rebuilding that trust, no matter how long it took. As she sat in her living room, staring at the city lights outside, one thought echoed in her mind. This isn't the end. It's the start of something better. The days following the board meeting were a whirlwind of activity. Olivia Carter worked tirelessly to oversee the next phase of reforms at Prosperity Bank. The suspension of the implicated regional executive sent shockwaves through the organization, but it also solidified Olivia's reputation as a leader who prioritized integrity over politics. Employees whispered in the hallways. Their curiosity mingled with a growing respect for Olivia's steadfast commitment to change. Some skeptics had even begun to come around, recognizing that her actions were not only necessary, but transformative. One afternoon, as Olivia reviewed a new community outreach program proposal, Michael appeared at her office door. "Do you have a moment?" he asked, holding a note-filled folder. "Of course," Olivia replied, gesturing for him to come in. Michael sat down, his enthusiasm evident. "I wanted to update you on the financial literacy program. The first workshops were a huge success. The students were engaged, and other schools have already requested to expand the program." Olivia's face lit up with a smile. That's fantastic news. You've done an incredible job, Michael. Thank you, he said, beaming. But there's more. A few local business owners attended the last session and are interested in partnering with us to provide student mentorship opportunities. They think it could be a great way to strengthen the program and build stronger ties with the community. Olivia leaned forward, intrigued. That's exactly the kind of collaboration we need, she said. Let's meet with those business owners and see how we can formalize the partnership. Michael nodded eagerly. I'll make the arrangements. As Michael left, Olivia felt a renewed sense of purpose. The program's success was a testament to what could be achieved when the bank focused on building relationships rather than simply processing transactions. That evening, Olivia held a meeting with her leadership team to discuss the ongoing changes within the bank. Jonathan Reed, always pragmatic, presented a summary of the feedback they had received from employees and clients. Most of the staff is on board with the changes, Jonathan said. But there's still some resistance. A few holdouts are clinging to the old ways of doing things, creating tension. Olivia nodded thoughtfully. Resistance is inevitable when you challenge the status quo, she said, but we can't let it derail our progress. What specific concerns have they raised? Jonathan hesitated. Some employees feel like the changes are happening too quickly. They're worried about job security and whether they'll be able to adapt. Olivia leaned back in her chair, considering his words. We need to address those concerns head-on, she said. Let's organize another all-staff meeting. I'll take questions directly from the employees and explain how these changes benefit everyone, not just the community, but also the people working here. Jonathan raised an eyebrow. You're walking into the lion's den, he said, half smiling. Transparency requires vulnerability, Olivia replied. If I expect the staff to trust me, I must trust them first. The staff meeting was held the following day. Olivia stood at the front of the room, facing dozens of employees, whose expressions ranged from cautious curiosity to outright skepticism. Thank you all for coming, Olivia began. I know the past few weeks have been challenging. Change is never easy, and I want to acknowledge the uncertainty that some of you may feel. She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. When I took on the role of majority shareholder, I knew this would be a difficult journey, but I also knew it was necessary. This bank had become stagnant, weighed down by practices that were not only outdated but harmful. Together, we can create something better that reflects the values of fairness, integrity, and community. A hand shot up near the middle of the room. It was an older employee, a senior loan officer named Harold, who had worked at the bank for decades. Miss Carter, Harold said, his tone respectful but firm. Some of us have been here long. Changes come and go, but they don't always stick. What makes this time different? Olivia met his gaze, her expression resolute. This time is different because we're not just changing police, but the culture. That starts with leadership setting the right example and holding everyone accountable to the same standards, no matter their position. Harold nodded slowly, his skepticism giving way to a glimmer of understanding. Another hand went up, this time from a younger employee, a customer service representative named Tina. Will the new programs and policies create opportunities for us too? Tina asked. Or are they just for the clients? Olivia smiled warmly. Absolutely. One of my priorities is investing in our employees. That means more training, clearer paths for advancement, and a workplace where your contributions are recognized and valued. The room murmured with approval, the tension beginning to lift. Olivia continued, addressing the room as a whole. This is a turning point for Prosperity Bank. I'm not asking for blind trust. I'm asking for your participation. Together we can make this a place we're all proud to be a part of. The meeting ended with a round of applause, which filled Olivia with cautious optimism. For the first time, she felt that the tide was genuinely beginning to turn. Later that day, Olivia received an update from Jonathan regarding the suspended regional executive. The investigation is progressing quickly, Jonathan said. It looks like they were involved in even more fraudulent activities than we initially thought. Legal is preparing to bring charges. Olivia's expression hardened. Good, she said. The sooner we root out this corruption, the sooner we can rebuild trust with our clients and employees. Jonathan nodded. There's one more thing, he said. I've heard rumors about outside parties trying to interfere with the bank's operations. It's vague, but I thought you should know. Olivia's brow furrowed. Interfere how? Pressure on certain board members, potential attempts to stall the reforms, Jonathan explained. Nothing concrete yet, but I'll keep digging. Olivia's jaw tightened. If they think they can stop this transformation, they're mistaken. Keep me updated on anything you find. To her desk as Jonathan left, her mind racing. The challenges she faced were growing more complex, but she was undeterred. The path forward was clear: accountability, transparency, and relentless dedication to the values she had set out to instill. This wasn't just about fixing a broken system, but building a legacy. A week after the staff meeting, Prosperity Bank felt different. Employees moved with renewed purpose, inspired by the changes Olivia Carter had championed. Conversations shifted from hushed whispers to open discussions about ideas, progress, and new opportunities. The financial literacy program expanded rapidly, with more schools and community organizations signing up to participate. Olivia and Michael met with local business owners to formalize partnerships, adding mentorship opportunities and scholarships to the program. The initiative was already garnering positive attention from the media, further boosting the bank's reputation. But Olivia knew the actual work was far from over. Late one evening, Olivia sat in her office poring over a report on the external audit. The findings confirmed what she had feared. Systemic issues extended beyond Victor Hale's branch. While the corruption at other branches wasn't as blatant, there were clear signs of neglect, inefficiency, and outdated practices. Her phone buzzed with a call from Jonathan Reed. "Olivia, I've got an update on the investigation into the regional executive," he said. "The legal team has enough evidence to proceed with formal charges. They'll be filing them tomorrow." "Good," Olivia replied. "What about the external audit findings? Have you reviewed the latest report?" "I have," Jonathan said. "It's not pretty, but it's manageable. The biggest challenge will be addressing the inconsistencies across branches. We'll need a unified plan to overhaul operations." Olivia leaned back in her chair, her mind already formulating a strategy. "Then that's what we'll do," she said. "Schedule a meeting with the leadership teams from all branches. I want to hear their concerns and ideas directly. It's time to get everyone on the same page." The leadership meeting was held at Prosperity Bank's flagship branch. Managers from branches across the region gathered in the conference room, their expressions a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Olivia stood at the front of the room, her presence commanding attention. "Thank you all for coming," she began. "Over several weeks, we've uncovered significant issues beyond this branch. These challenges didn't appear overnight and won't be solved overnight. But together, we can create a stronger, more unified organization." She paused, allowing her words to resonate. "I want to hear from you," she continued. "What's working, what's not, and what we can do to support your teams more effectively. This isn't about pointing fingers, it's about finding solutions." One by one, the managers shared their perspectives. Some highlighted the need for updated technology to streamline operations, while others emphasized the importance of training programs to address gaps in employee development. As the discussion unfolded, Olivia listened intently, taking notes and asking thoughtful questions. By the end of the meeting, a sense of collaboration had emerged. "This is the kind of dialogue we need to move forward," Olivia said in her closing remarks. "I'll consider your feedback as we develop our next steps. Thank you for your honesty and commitment." Back at her office, Olivia began drafting a comprehensive reform plan based on the insights from the leadership meeting. The strategy focused on 3 core pillars: operational efficiency, employee empowerment, and community engagement. For operational efficiency, Olivia prioritized updating outdated systems and eliminating redundant processes. For employee empowerment, she proposed new training programs, mentorship opportunities, and clear career advancement paths. And for community engagement, she expanded the bank's initiatives to include small business grants and financial planning workshops for families. Olivia presented the plan to the board a week later. Initially skeptical of her bold approach, the board members now listened with respect and admiration. "This is exactly what the bank needs," one member said after Olivia finished her presentation. You've turned a crisis into an opportunity for transformation. The bank early the following day. The following day, her heels clicked purposefully against the marble floor. Employees greeted her with nods and smiles, their morale visibly higher than it had been just weeks ago. She headed to the conference room, where a group of employees waited for the second monthly progress meeting she had instituted. Among them was Michael, who had quickly become a trusted ally. "Good morning, everyone," Olivia said as she sat at the head of the table. "Let's get started." The meeting covered updates on the financial literacy program, progress on operational reforms, and plans for upcoming community initiatives. Olivia encouraged open discussion, ensuring every voice at the table was heard. As the meeting wrapped up, Michael spoke up. "I just wanted to say," he began hesitantly, "that the changes you've made have inspired many of us. It feels like we're part of something bigger now." Olivia smiled warmly. "Thank you, Michael," she said. "That's exactly what I hope to achieve. And because of all of you, we're making this vision a reality." That evening, Olivia returned to her office to find a handwritten note on her desk. For a moment, her heart sank, fearing it was another warning from the anonymous sender. But as she unfolded the paper, she realized it was different. The note read, "Thank you for believing in this place and is. We're proud to work for someone who fights for what's right." Olivia felt a surge of emotion as she read the words. It was a small gesture, but it carried immense meaning. The tides had turned, and the employees were no longer just participants. They believed in her vision. Over the next few months, Prosperity Bank underwent a complete transformation. The community programs flourished, drawing praise from local leaders and media outlets. Employees embraced the new culture, finding renewed purpose in their roles. And clients, once wary of the bank's troubled past, began to trust it again. Olivia often reflected on the journey that had brought her to this point. The rejection, the resistance, and the difficult decisions all led to a more vital, resilient institution. One evening, as she stood in the lobby of the flagship branch, Olivia watched employees chatting and laughing, the tension that once permeated the air now replaced by camaraderie and hope. Jonathan approached her, his expression one of quiet admiration. "You've done something incredible here," he said. "It wasn't just me," Olivia replied. "It was all of us." Jonathan nodded. "Still, it takes a special leader to turn a vision into reality." Olivia smiled, her gaze drifting to the bank's new motto on the wall: integrity, growth, community. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to relax, knowing that the legacy she was building wasn't just for the bank. It was for everyone who believed in the power of change. And as she walked out into the cool night air, Olivia knew this was only the beginning. The story of Olivia Carter and her journey with Prosperity Bank is a profound testament to resilience, integrity, and the transformative power of leadership. It reminds us that change, though often met with resistance, is necessary to overcome entrenched systems of injustice and corruption. Olivia's unwavering commitment to fairness and community was not just about fixing what was broken, but about envisioning and creating a better future for all involved. The video underscores a crucial lesson. Authentic leadership is not about power or titles, but about courage. The courage to confront uncomfortable truths, take responsibility, and push for a vision that uplifts everyone. Olivia faced rejection, sabotage, and overwhelming odds. Yet she remained steadfast, proving that even in the face of systemic flaws, one person with a clear purpose can inspire change that ripples outward. For viewers, Olivia's journey offers a powerful reminder that setbacks are not the end. Whether it's a rejection at the start of a dream or resistance from those who fear change, perseverance and integrity are what ultimately lead to success. If this story moves you, we want to hear your thoughts. Was it inspiring? If you thought the story was good, comment with a 1. If you thought it was terrific, comment with a 2. Share your stories of resilience and transformation in the comments below. We'd love to hear them. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay updated on more inspiring stories like this one. Let us know what you think about Olivia's journey and the lessons it carries. Your voice matters, and we look forward to your reflections in the comment section. Let's celebrate the power of change and the incredible stories that remind us of what's possible.